Sketchcraft is recorded in front of a live internet audience and supported by listeners like you. Please be sure to leave a review on iTunes, like and share our Facebook page, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All links can be found at sketchcraft.com. That's Sketchcraft, C-R-A-F-T, the name of the podcast.com. Remember, every little bit counts and it all helps to grow the show. Thanks. Welcome to Sketchcraft, the podcast for art, games, and process junkies. I'm Rob Duenas, full-time illustrator and graphic artist elsewhere. This is an unedited podcast, which will probably contain strong language, so listener discretion is advised. Hello everybody, Rob D here. If you're just tuning into Sketchcraft for the very first time, you should know that we typically rant about art, movie, and geek-related news stuffs chosen by either us or you, the Sketchcraft audience. Joining me today is Arizona's very own Brandon James from leadheavy.com and freelance graphic artist. James, say hi.
Hello.
Said James. Brandon James. Anyhow, Brandon, so let's see, what have we been up to the last few weeks? So really quickly, if you guys will notice, it's been a few weeks since I posted the last podcast. I just posted it the other day. But we actually recorded, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some personal stuff going on in my life. I had tried to get that posted before I went off to go do stuff. So it didn't happen, got to it about a week after I got back. So whatevers, it just means my ranking drops on Podomatic from like 400 to 1100, but seeing as how I don't get money from the ranking, I don't fucking care,
Right.
Don't change Rob's life none. But I did get a couple emails, people asking when there'd be another podcast. So, yay, Brandon. Yay, people care.
Right.
So let me just quickly update I'll bring up what I'm up to, and then you can pick one of your topics and we can go back and forth. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right, so what have I been doing lately? Well, we just completed the PowerPrints 3 Kickstarter. I think we raised just over 10 grand. Not bad for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. So I spent 3 or 4 days locked in my room processing those for canvas prints, because what basically had to be done was all the art had to be put onto my canvas print template, and then I had to extend the art out. So if they're dripping, like the sauces are dripping, they have to drip all the way off the canvas, and they don't anywhere near it. Especially and on the sides with the sauces too. Same with the artwork, like say the Venoms or the SpiderMans. Those have to have creative borders, like on the edges and stuff, so they're not just square when you print them. I like them to look like actual paintings. So that took 16 hours times 3, whatever that math is. I have 48 hours to do nonstop. And Brandon, you joined me for a little bit of that, right? On the Skype?
A little bit of that madness, but
yeah, did I sound like I was having an awesome time?
You weren't a happy camper. You were.
And no one likes to complain about, oh, woe is me, I have to go do this stuff. And I totally believe that that's a valid argument. I'll also say that I don't have to like it. It got
Right.
done, but I may have been a little meaner those few days than I normally am. But I don't know, Brandon, what do you do when you're stuck? It's not that I don't like doing it, it's that it's monotonously boring for me,
Right. There's no rock star feel to just do a monotonous work. There's not. Every art project's not going to be like makes you feel good inside and makes you feel like you express yourself. Sometimes it's just monotonous shit where you're just doing it over and over and over again.
The business had to get done, and it was getting business done. It wasn't like, and no one's going to give me a big pat on the back for that. Like, I posted this, yay, no one, it doesn't matter. It's just stuff that you just like, well, when people receive it and it's hanging on their wall kind of thing, that's when I'll get this is amazing, and it'll
Right.
feel good. But doing that for, I think I had to do it 50 to 70 times was not fun.
Right.
Fun or funny. So, yeah, there was that to deal with. And then also, to get more into things that I can't really post or show or get any praise on, I've been writing Game Cave big time. Like the actual novella part, the part that I figured, well, when I pitched Game Cave, I thought I knew how to make a game magazine, and if I just have people hand me reviews and I rewrite them as characters, that could be enough, you know? And
Right.
then maybe I'll have a couple pages, sort of describing the universe, or I don't know, there's antics ensue. In my mind, what I always wanted to do was create an actual story, but I figured I couldn't do that the first issue. So I got the writing done at the magazine level back in December. When it dawned on me that at the level of detail I wanted to do all the art that I had sold, which is like 50 pieces of random sketches, it realized how long it was going to take to do that. I immediately went and posted an update to everyone. Hey, by the way, the art's going to take forever. Sorry. So, and I'm not refunding that money, so I'm just gonna have to do it. Anyhow, no one complained because the art's looking phenomenal. Thank goodness. However, I said, well, now that I have this time, I'm gonna actually write, you know, a novella. Like what I pitched that, but I knew maybe it wasn't the way it was in my head. It would be enough. It would have been in the book. You know what I mean, Brandon? Like it would have been in the
Right.
book, so I hit that, but it wasn't the ideal version. The ideal version to me was I'll get around to issue two. I'm like, well, fuck waiting till issue two. You know what I mean? What if I don't even want to do an issue two? So I'm gonna get it in now, because I want to have you need somewhere to go. That being said, when I come up with stories, I never create a bunch of characters and designs and then figure a story out. Brandon, like,
Right.
like that's like how they made episodes 1 through 3. Like they came up with a bunch of concept art, and Lucas goes, "Oh, that'd be a nifty villain,"
Right.
and and you get these fucking movies. So I actually had to, say, well, if this is the protagonist, who's the antagonist, and long story short, I have achieved all of this, and I'm just at the very edge of starting the writing. See, the writing won't be hard to do. It's all the setup and structure. Um, the writing's just an act of every day. I've already been writing every day for the past 3 months, getting this shit all figured out, going through 30 years of Game Cave history. The multiple characters, the story arcs, the subplots, all that bullshit that will carry me through to issue between 4 and 8, depending on what I would like to do. Full complete story arc by issue 4, secondary story arc by issue 8, you know?
Right.
So these are things that aren't fun, to talk about. I can't show, no one gets oh my God, that's awesome, kind of thing when you do this sort of shit. But when it ships and they read it, they'll appreciate or be like, you fucking suck as a writer. But I did have my first, um, what would be the word? I have Bacon is a screenwriter. James Bacon, my contributor, my co-collaborator on the Game Cave podcast, and then he also has helped written a bunch of stuff for the magazine. The the raw reviews is what I like to call them, the base review stuff. I had James look it over since he's a screenwriter, works actively in Hollywood, and I said, well, here it is. Does it work? And James has we worked together before Game Fan. If I was off, James would tell me it doesn't work. So he was rather shocked that I had the necessary things set up.
Right.
He was like, I know you said you would, but I didn't think you actually have it. So no, he was very impressed, very happy. He's digging through a lot of it. So I just need someone to give me a second set of eyes, as I'm
Right.
working, and he's the guy to help out with that. Um,
An
so.
honest second pair of eyes, not someone will just be like, "Oh, this is amazing, good job." Someone
Mhm.
will tell you if shit's not working or if it's just flat, if it's boring.
Yeah, and to understand the structure part of it, and to not demand a fucking paycheck every time, like he's just becoming the the extra hand I need on Game Cave, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
just helping with the raw data, helping with the copy editing, helping just having that paid. He's paid in the sense that I pay him per issue, but just having that set of eyes that, you know, and that I can trust the opinion. He's not going to be like, Rob, fucking, yeah, this is the best ever, and it's not, So I expect to not hit it out the park, with the writing the first few times. Like I think it'll be fun, at the very least. That's what I'm into. I'm not trying to write Game of Thrones,
Right.
game of fucking Nintendo or whatever. So it's supposed to be a fun little universe. But I just want to make certain that that I'm doing it well enough. And so it was nerve-wracking today, to get the feedback. I'll be honest.
Right.
So okay, I've talked enough. So Brandon, go ahead and pick a topic. Let's go.
I'm gonna go with my top one here, and I get called a name thief by an art thief. While you were gone, I had this guy go on my art page and share it, and this is his exact quotes. OMG, this Brandon James guy is such a ripoff of the real lead heavy artist, Michael Brizard, who is a real comic artist.
Now hold on one second. So what this is in relationship to is you've been trying to find a way to brand
myself.
yourself, uh, which has been driving me nuts, right?
Right, for a while.
For a while. And so, in an effort to get you to shut up about it, right? I said,
Right.
you're a big fan of Scotty Young.
Big fan.
And I said back in the day, like 2003, 2004, he used to have a website called Lead Heavy, LED heavy.com, where him, Mark Brooks, Sean Galloway, John Boy, there was a few people that rotated in and out.
Right.
Had a website slash forum where they used that to sort of help propel themselves, right? Like to collect all their work together and gain notoriety and break into the industry, and it worked, right?
Right.
Right. So I said, say, hey, just out of random curiosity, because I knew if I came up with the name, you'd probably fight me on it. Because every time I come up with a name for someone, they fight me because they didn't come up with it. So this popped randomly in my head. I went to GoDaddy and looked up is lead, Lead heavy.com, taken, and it wasn't. So I said if you wanted that, it would be a nice homage to Scotty Young, since he doesn't use it anymore. He uses
Right.
ScottyYoung.com because he's famous. And you couldn't tell me it wouldn't work, right?
Right.
Because obviously it didn't work for Scotty Young. So you went and did it, right?
That I did. I bought it that night.
Now, with that being said, what happened?
So the Michael Brizard is a Top Cow artist who, on his DeviantArt page, took the name Lead Heavy years ago. Then he switched it to his normal name, Michael Brizard. But once you take a DeviantArt name, you can't ever put it back in the pile. It reroutes you to your new page forever. So I bought leadheavy.com. All my Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff is Lead Heavy, but I couldn't get it on DeviantArt. So this guy sees, types in Lead Heavy, thinks I'm copying this guy, Michael
not
Brizard,
knowing that Lead Heavy predated
Michael Brizard. So, yeah,
which
and
we
then,
didn't even know about because the fuck I follow guys on
you're right.
Deviant. Like I have friends that I fave stuff, but I don't actively seek out Top Cow artists other than Silvestri, right?
Right.
And sometimes Rockefort, right?
Yeah.
So
then he finishes with, shaking my head, it's sad when people can't be original. So at first I was kind of butthurt. I was like, all right, this douche, talking shit. Then I go to the guy's page. I turn into Batman and I start just, investigating him. I go to his page and he's copied your Superman art and a couple Daredevil pieces. I mean, shitty copies, mind you, very shitty. But
the little head sketches I did for the
right.
Avengers shit last summer, right?
But I'm such a fan and friend of yours that immediately I knew which piece it was. I mean, I knew it. So I call him out on it, and within minutes he takes it down and then makes his page private because he knew he was found out. So it cracks me up that someone's sitting there calling me a name thief over a deviant art name that an artist doesn't even use anymore, who originally didn't have it.
Pissed off, the whole thing is incredibly ironic. I mean, just from like, so you pick a name that's in homage of a guy you look up to, an artist.
Right. Which I'm honest about, which I everyone knows. I tell them. I put it on my page.
And the only reason why you didn't actually use LED is because he still owns it. You know what I mean? Like he never got rid of it. He still owns LEDheavy.com. So LEAD is open, which almost seems crazy because it's a simple word, right? Like you almost feel like you feel lucky on that one.
Yeah, it's a good name. I like it. I thought it was great. I liked it before you told me it was Scotty Young. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Right. So hold on. Because I gotta spell this one out. So you homage an artist. Another artist either homage or just arrived at the name for whatever reason, realized that since they're not going to put Lead Heavy in Top Cow credits, probably better to have his actual name out there, correct?
Right, correct.
Which I'm 90% certain is what happened. Some dickweed, right, whom I always say, the first who call a thief, lest be a thief, right? Like,
Right.
like some guy out there who's knocking me and God knows who else off because that's what they're up and coming, they're learning artists really, knocking me off because maybe he's in another country, right? He's in another country.
No. This one's
Oh,
in
okay.
state.
So
He's
so whatever, he's knocking me off, calls you a thief, not knowing that you were like really good friends with me, like,
right.
and so you just by sheer instance of being called out, see that he's knocking my shit off poorly, which, always, one, I'm like, hey, that's cool in that, I guess, when people are stealing your shit, that says you're doing something right. But what bothers me about it isn't that he's knocking it off, it's that it always just makes me look even worse. And it's like knocking off the things that really weren't meant to be knocked off. Like, like if you're gonna
Right.
knock me off, knock off the fucking Blood Rain cover, or knock off, you know what I mean, like my
Right.
Cupid cover, or knock off an Avengers, the full painted thing. But when it's like my sketches, like it's like fuck, because then people post back to that sketch and go, "That's Rob Duenas' art," and I get credited with that being the best I could do kind of
Right. Your
situation.
15-minute lunch sketches.
I've seen this before, and so then I get a whole blog how I suck just as bad as Rob Liefeld. Like I'm like, oh, but the guys, that isn't how I. And all the things that they'll post in the blog, they want it to look like the thing that this guy's knocking off. So they
Right.
post my $10 sketch. I did those $10 sketches for a year. You remember back,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So they'll post those things, were like those noirs, which is really just me kind of goofing around and getting paid to do it, kind of thing, as what I can do as an artist. So it just drives me batshit crazy. I'm like, fuck. But then you said that I guess they can't knock off the stuff
Yeah,
that
they
I'm.
can't. They don't have the talent to knock off the good shit. They'll take what you did, maybe with a watercolor, and just try scribbling in markers to make it look like that, and they can't
But
do
why
it.
can't they try it with the ones that I actually did a good job on? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
like I did a I'll say I did a decent job with the Avengers stuff. So why not, or the Spawn, right? But it's always like when let's say I fucked around with Spawn's knuckle on a piece of page, and that knuckle becomes Green Lantern's knuckle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then I get credit with being the guy who draws knuckles. So nobody wins, I suppose.
Yeah.
In the long run. So it's a fun story though.
Yeah. In the end, he can go fuck himself.
He's deleted all your comments and shit, right? Like
Oh
he's.
yeah, he's blocked me, and now he's changed his stuff to he's a MMA fighter now apparently. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
So
Good for
hey,
him.
that's awesome. So pick something else you want to talk about.
Uh, expectations as a writer.
My expectation. I think I briefly said this. I'm not expecting to be credited as a great writer, if ever. My expectation of a writer is to do as good a job as, you know, an average writer. You know what I mean? Fun. Like I guess, is bone deep storytelling. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not meant. I'm not trying. Because here's what happens. I'm gonna put a bunch of stuff in words, and I'm gonna get everyone from grammar Nazis to. See, I'm not finishing sentences. I'm gonna get everyone from grammar Nazis to the literary elite, you know, and they're going to be like, this guy is writing about characters in a video game world,
Right.
retarded shit. So I'm not expecting to be George R. Martin. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be, you know, the next fucking Neil Gaiman, anywhere near it. I think good enough, entertaining, fun, gets the job done, produce work. It's got some pictures,
Right.
That's my expectations, and so I mean, look, when J.K. Rowling writes a book under another person's right under a pseudonym, a male pseudonym, okay, gets fairly decent reviews but no sales, says, hey, the publisher says, look, Rowling did it, sales increase. Now everyone hates the book. They say she can't write. Now, if you're gonna tell me J.K. Rowling can't write, you know what I mean? Like the level. If I always say, careful. Better the devil you know. Like enough people complain about artists, right? I
Right.
already know that I'm gonna just be shit on for the writing. Like the fans will like it. I you know what I'm? Am I making any sense? Like,
Right. How are you gonna? How do you think you'll handle the bad criticism and keep that friendly face? I mean, You
I'm
think it'll?
only interested in hearing things that have to do with structure,
Hmm.
and cohesiveness. If the premise, if the interactions, whatever, if the way I produce or present the material isn't, highbrow enough for them, then I just ignore it,
Right.
you know? So I've been mentally preparing myself for that kick in the balls.
Hmm.
Um, especially with Game Cave, like, because, like I said before, I normally, when I come up with a story, I have a very clear hook, a very clear way to sell it. Like, how I describe. Uh, well, I've said Dragon Heist before. Ocean's 11 meets Final Fantasy, which is still getting done.
Right.
Um, first things first. Game Cave is not easily described,
I'd say it's a fun ride, a world of fun
but
video games and art.
yeah, but that is a really shitty way to sell. Like a world that's a fun ride. Leadheavy.com,
That's
right?
why I'm not a writer.
um, even if I was to simply try to mash it up, there's no way. It's it's an RPG world with the history of game magazines, you know, and somewhere I don't know, dude. I'm working on the log line,
Yeah, work on
and,
that one.
and and I decided to stop working on the log line until I complete my goal, motivation, conflict for each character, which will be sometime around Sunday. You know, so my final log line, with log line, if you don't know, folks, is a 30 to 40 phrase statement about your story that includes the who, what, when, where, and why, all in one statement. And it usually is 40 words long, you know. So I have decided to forego the log line. And the log line will probably be specific upon the protagonist rather than the universe this time.
Hmm.
The protagonist being Bombcat, and so uh, when I have the log line, I'll come back and say what that is, just because I'll be like, haha, it's this. But hey, but yeah, man, that's a lot of us. I was just telling James today, I am very good at describing art in the art process.
Right.
I'm not so good right now describing my writing process because it's so new
Yeah,
and no one's read anything.
it's definitely different hearing you. You know, when you're explaining art, you're just on point. But you can. It's kind of good though. I mean, you can hear the vulnerability when you're talking about your writing because it's a new thing. You know, it's kind of, I guess, uncharted water for you. I mean,
Well, it's uncharted in that I've never shared it. It's
right,
almost it's not uncharted in that I haven't done it. I've written scripts, bro, plenty of them for me,
right,
but I've never been like, hey, have someone else should, because I've sent you a script. It's hard to read scripts.
right,
Certainly I've never written a novel, but I don't really, long as I don't think about it in the novel, it's just like an expanded screenplay in a way for me, then I don't really care. Like I've gotten my head around it. But yeah, there is definitely a vulnerability. There's also a section of it's hard to talk about something you can't just hand someone and say, that they could read it. So
right.
like if I talk about it and you can't read it, then you're just taking my word for it for the next 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so it's a lot of like I hate when they talk about the story for episodes 1 through 3, and it's about the story and these things, and then you see the movie like fucking, there's no story, you know. But yeah, it's definitely uneasy footing, and I have already experienced a little bit of, I'm not gonna say pushback, but just the idea when I've mentioned to writers that I've worked with or had hired that I'll just do it myself. They don't like to hear that.
right.
Fucking writer thinks he can draw. The drawer thinks he can write. Freudian slip, I suppose. It reminds me of when McFarlane wrote Spider-Man. We had this discussion not too long ago. When he decided to write Spider-Man, I remember as a kid the pushback was enormous. How
Yeah,
does an artist think he can write, a comic book? And now it's so absurd to me. Like comic books are not very well written.
right.
I mean, yeah, I guess they had just come off getting The Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns as a graphic novel, so okay. But Spider-Man's not the deepest storytelling, dude. It's villain, Spidey, go.
A
And
couple
so,
jokes here and there.
and I can't see how McFarlane has done any better or worse than. I mean, certainly he did better than the Clone Saga that came after when he left, and
Right.
all that other shit. So. Did he do experimental things that were a lot of visual? Yeah, as an artist would, but go read his storylines and tell me how they weren't any. You know what I'm saying, Brandon? Like, I just felt that that was mean in a way
Right.
because he was an artist and he was getting shit on by an industry. I feel like artists who do more than draw in the comic industry are like Seven Samurai or an Ant's Life, you know? When if they realize that the artists outnumber us,
Right.
or if they realize how much control that they would have, these books are visual. So if artists realize what control they could have, you know,
Right.
then but not every artist is a writer, so I'm not saying every artist should write. I just came from the era of Dave Sim saying you should do everything, and the Turtles being proof of that. I just don't want to draw comics because the stories I'd like to tell, like when I read Harry Potter, you can not Harry Potter is an example, but if I read Sword Art Online, you know what I mean? The
Hmm.
light novel. If I read that light novel, look what you can do, in 50,000 words. That's 50,000 words. I have 50,000 words of Game Cave in this issue. The story alone, you know?
Yeah.
So that means I have roughly the space of Sword Art Online to tell a Game Cave story. I can't do that in a comic. You know how many issues it would take?
Right.
So I'm not interested at this point in my art career to spend all that time drawing panels when I could write some shit. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So my motivation is to develop myself as a writer. My expectations is that I'm gonna get kicked over and over from the elite. I feel my intuition tells me the fans will think it's cool, you know,
Right.
because I don't, so long as I'm like not trying to be like I'm writing because I have a great story and no one can do it but me. Like no, I'm just not interested in working with anybody or having to sell writers on my point of view anymore, It
Right.
got very difficult with Dragon Heist. I worked with a very talented writer, um, and tried to help build that, and it just turned into I don't know why you're doing this and I don't get this, and I can't give them my 30 plus years of knowledge. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
in certain eccentric things, to pitch. I'm like, well, there's why pitch anymore? Ideas. If I want to do like Ghoul Gears, I'll do at some point, right? Which is going to be my take on what I was doing on Monstrates. And if I pitch Ghoul Gears as fucking it's Darkstalkers, meets StarCraft, you know what I mean? Or Starship Troopers, you know what I mean? Like if I can mix Starship Troopers and monsters and RTS battle kind of thing, I'm gonna go find a writer for this, Brandon. At some point, like is the writing good enough? And I think that as long as I'm trying, you know look at my art. Am I the greatest artist ever? No, but Lord knows I'm not half-assing it too, right?
Right.
And I think the effort shows in the art, and I think the effort will show in the writing. For the long answer, for that.
Next topic.
All right, next topic. Let's move.
Final X-Men trailer and Spidey 2 reviews.
All right, so did you see the final X-Men trailer? The
Yes, I
third.
did.
Tell me
With
what you
the
thought.
I have more questions than anything. I'm confused as shit. Beast isn't blue anymore. Professor X is walking around. He's an alcoholic.
Well, hold on. Sometimes he's walking, sometimes he
Sometimes,
isn't.
right? Sometimes in the
So
chair.
are we in his mind when he's walking?
Is he lazy?
But then they break Magneto out of prison. He's not in a chair anymore. So did he fix it, or is he just using his telekinesis and he can only do it sometime? So I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm with you. Like sometimes he is and isn't. So that's
Beast isn't blue anymore. I
and then
mean,
he is. So he's
that he
obviously
is.
gone back to using that serum to not be. But then he accepts his beastness. Which is just a useless X-Men plot line that they added as subtext for homosexuality in a way. Which God, I even hate you. That's a derogatory term. I don't even like using it. But the gay rights has become an issue in the X Men movies, I believe, more than the civil rights. And would you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Um, which I get it because gay rights are definitely more of a contemporary issue than the civil rights. However, if they're telling the story in the 60s, would not the civil rights be more appropriate? And then the modern stuff is because I'm pro. You do whatever the fuck you want in life.
Right.
I don't care. You're gay, you straight, man. I don't give a shit. I just don't. I draw the line at when people decide whether what I'm up to in life is a good or bad idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not. I'm totally liberal on this stance. So, but the Beast being that whole subplot, there's a thing
Mutant
added
and
at the end of
proud.
X-Men First Class where he becomes Beast, is what we're talking about.
Right.
Which, boy, it can't be a spoiler if it's in the fucking trailer. And it comes past something they call the second or third plot point. There's a point in the script where once you hit that point, you can't add new characters. Right? It's whenever the team goes charging into battle, right? At that
Right.
point, you have everything you need. You have to go battle. You can't add new characters. They did it in Spider-Man 3 in that the new plot point was that the butler knew the whole time that fucking Harry's father didn't really die from Spider-Man.
Right. He
I
cleaned
should
his
have.
wounds,
And
and
then you're like, whoa, what? Like, cause that's that's kind of a big.
that's a big secret to keep for a long time.
And you have to digest it. And it was totally unnecessary. It was to me that Spider-Man 3, like, we always felt that Harry knew he was Spider-Man the whole time,
Right.
he just wouldn't ante up, right? But okay,
But the butler comes and says, "Hey, I cleaned your dad when he was naked and dead, and also here's some iced tea."
yeah, it's not the point to add that in the movie. So this beast thing happens, and it's supposed to be like, now, I don't know why he has claws, he's gonna fly a plane. He's probably not the best dude to be handling sensitive instruments when he's got oven mitts. Just put on an oven mitt and drive your car, see how you feel. So
His fingers didn't even wrap around the controls; they just like stuck out like straight, like if a dog was driving the car.
yeah, it just didn't need to be in the movie. That's where I was like, man, they could have broken this film into two films on that level. But I let it go because the movie was fun and okay, fine. I like the movie. So now he's back to humans, thus proving that fucking point was pointless. Mutant and
Right.
Proud was not necessary at the end of that film. The relationship, the core relationship was, you know, Xavier, Magneto, and I guess to a lesser extent, Mystique in that film. Like those three viewpoints, and Mystique could have just, I'm going with Magneto now, and she didn't need to add in the Beast shit.
Right.
So my guess is now they've gone back on that, and he'll decide to be Beast again or not be. I don't know, dude. The guy's a good actor. I like him.
Yeah, I
You
liked him
know,
in Warm Bodies, even
I
though
like the stuff in the trailer where he's like, "Well, did I make it?" He's like, "No." Some people didn't like the sign, but
I
I
know.
liked this. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
I think going back to what you said at the beginning, where I think they should have played more off of the first movie, First Class. Okay, be proud to be a mutant. Be proud of what you are. We got it. This movie is based off mutants being slaves.
Hey, be lucky to be fucking alive,
Right.
because like the people look, and we got in this discussion with Andy, I think on the previous cast or two, where
Hmm.
I said there's that scene in New X-Men when Grant Morrison wrote and Frank quietly drew the comic book, where it shows the fight between Homo sapien and Neanderthals for survival. And it turns out the humans took the battle to the Neanderthals and wiped them out, right?
Hmm.
So this is a direct parallel that the humans now see a threat in Homo superior, which is mutant, and decide to just basically eradicate him,
Right.
with the Sentinels. You might have powers, but we have ingenuity. So I really wish that was the clearer explanation for
I
this
th-
battle.
I think what it was missing that I would have liked to seen whatever is actually them in chains, them in some
It's
form of
eugenics,
inhabitors.
Brandon. It's eugenics. You could have made that parallel in the first movie by showing the World War II stuff. The Nazis believe they're superior. It's about eugenics.
Right.
Now we're talking about human race. And you sort of get it with the Days of Future Past storyline. So you start at the end of the story, which is we basically wipe mutants out. And the universe, I don't know. I don't know how humans are
Right.
surviving in the Matrix land. It seems like robots. Are we in the Matrix?
That,
Well, we
that's
don't
what
know.
that's what my wife said. She said, "Is that the Matrix robots?" She's like, "What's going on there?" I was like, "I don't know. Shit's flying around, just hovering."
Right. So I think at the end of the day, it was a good trailer. I still don't know if the movie's going to be good, but like I said, I'm going to, base off the success of the last film, I'll go in and give Bryan Singer the chance to make this even better, but
Right.
I don't know. Like I said, good trailer, but it was killing me that they used cashmere in the trailer because I kept going, I'm going to show you a world without rules. Like it's the Matrix. This movie, there's so much Matrix in that trailer, you know? The only thing we could have had was Magneto stopping a bunch of bullets, and I would have flipped my fucking lid, dude. So Wolverine has bone claws now because of the Wolverine movie, right?
Yeah,
Right. They carried that over.
I guess because I mean,
I didn't see the
when
Wolverine movie.
yeah, well, the Wolverine movie, yeah, he gets bone claws and they break off and he's got little nubs. But that movie was horrible. I don't care what other
So he
people
still
say.
has the bone claws.
Yeah, but they're like nubs. But then in this trailer, he's dressed in '70s outfit, so it's before he gets the adamantium. I don't know.
Well, I think they, no, he had the adamant. This has to take place. Well, he got the adamant
He got the adamantium
in
like
the
in the
80s.
'80s, '90s, I guess.
In X-Men in the origin fucking, because we're talking movie lore now. What year did that movie take place? Because it looked like 1998, but it wasn't supposed to be. It
Right.
was just shot weird. Because he went to Vietnam, right? In that movie.
Yeah, they went to Vietnam and then yeah, and then I don't know. There's
Oh,
the
I hate that
montage.
fucking movie, dude.
I hated the second one. I went with Andy Bond, and he loved it. And I looked at him at the end of the movie. I'm sitting there, and I look over at him, and he's smiling, and I just wanted to punch him in the face for liking it.
Well,
I
he
hated
had the
this.
bone claws at the beginning of that movie because they had that Muppet scene where the kids like, ah, he's running with the Miss Piggy charge with the as I call it, the Miss Piggy charge with his bone claws out.
Right.
So he's had the bone claws. The idea is that he transports his mind into
Into his
his younger
70s
self.
body.
Right. So he'd still have the bone claws. So he doesn't. But does he have the bone claws in the future stuff?
I didn't see it.
He
It doesn't
might
show.
still have it if he still had bone claws at the end of Wolverine. The only reason why they're doing this bone claw shit is they're trying to depower him because he's basically an invincible guy until he gets near Magneto.
Right.
So.
And if he's not fighting Magneto in this movie, you don't need the metal claws.
Right.
Spider-Man 2 reviews.
Have you seen any of this stuff?
No, I have not because I don't want to
Reviews
see
are
the
starting
movie.
to come in, and people who are like, "Hey, the first one wasn't great, but it did some good stuff. This movie manages to undo even the good stuff." It's a why bother movie. It's
Right.
basically they say it's the '90s Spider-Man cartoon come to life.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
That's bad.
It's the early buzz, if people want to know. I mean, there's no spoilers in there. But I've been telling everyone I can't fucking stand the reboot. I was the most looking forward to it. I love 500 Days of Summer. I like Andrew Garfield as a guy, especially after the Social Network,
Right?
which I was like, that's a perfect Peter Parker for me, man. I'm down. I was up for a reboot in the vein of Ultimate Spider-Man, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the actual movie just was like the worst imitation of Batman Begins I could think of, short of the Arrow.
Catwoman.
Well, the Arrow show is like an imitation of Batman Begins, but they at least have 23 hours, to
Right.
cover, so I got time. I guess if Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man was a TV show broken up into 23 hours, I could give it credit, for it being how it is. But as a movie, it just didn't do anything different or better than the Raimi films at the end of the day for me.
Right.
And this doesn't seem to do much more than that. So it
When it
won't stop.
when it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, we'll have to watch it and give a review on it. I mean, we'll have to put our 2 cents into it,
I say we just bootleg it and tell everyone to watch the bootleg. I don't like to bootleg stuff, guys, but I'm willing to bootleg movies I hate. Like X-Men Origins, I bootleg that. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull couldn't get past the bar fight. But after the bar, I was like, okay, I'm done. Can't make it. No, the fridge. The fridge. And nuke the fridge, which I didn't think was as ridiculous because I already hated the movie up to. I mean, the fridge thing didn't. I skipped right to the end to see. Okay, and then there's the monkeys, and he's swinging with the monkeys, and
Well, that movie just proves Shia LaBeouf can do anything. Fight giant robots, swing like a monkey. He can do anything.
no, we've already talked about his whatever. Let's get back to Spidey 2. So will Spider-Man 2? I think it's tracking. They say to do 95 million opening weekend. If it does 95 million its opening weekend, I say it gets down to 30 million by week 2. I say it will do less than half of whatever it does on week 2, no matter what it debuts to. I'm not interested in opening weekend. But do you think it will break It will get 90. It's not gonna break 100 million, but do you think it'll do 95 million this opening weekend?
Mm,
You can be fair. You don't have to.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think it'll do about 40 next week too because of Easter. Maybe people have the holiday. Maybe like.
XMen comes out the week after.
Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, think
It's
about that,
done.
right? Let me
It's
let me just
done.
double check my time here really quick. I'll go to Box Office Mojo, right? Box. I already got a hot link on. I can use my other computer so I don't kill the fucking stream. Oh, by the way, early reviews on Transcendence is horrible. Like I told you, that would be the worst film of the year. So I'm glad to see that I'm being proved right on that one. Do 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 do. Showtime's release schedule. Transcendence looked like a bad '90s movie with a much bigger budget. So, and I like Wally Pfister. Someone said he got fisted when they spelled it like his last name. I was like, that's fucked up. Ka-ching, kitty. So let me see. Okay, so Amazing Spider-Man comes out May 2nd. No, okay, May 9th, nothing, and then May 16th is Godzilla. So yeah, you're right. It could do 40 million its second week,
Yeah, I mean,
but
it might.
that's not Easter weekend though, dude. I mean, it's not Easter weekend though. So
No.
it could. I say closer to. I say less than half. Whatever it does, it will do 40% of week two, if it's as bad as I think it is. But people might like it, man. I mean, look, fucking Transformers makes a lot of money. People seem to hate it, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't know about this movie. I don't know why I'm so keen. First, it's the Amazing Spider-Man 2. It couldn't have been Spectacular Spider. You know what I mean? Like it couldn't have been Web of Spider-Man. I thought when they went with the Amazing Spider-Man, they would just have different,
Right. The
Spider-Man
sensational
monikers.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, like the Web of Spider-Man would have been great because the sequel always confused with all the villains. Would have been
Yeah.
great. Web of Spider-Man, and then it could have been like the third one could have been, I don't know, Ultimate Spider-Man. A triumphant return.
Right.
I mean, how hard is that? Amazing Spider-Man 2.
See, what I got mixed up on real quick is I didn't know it doesn't come out till May 2nd because I haven't paid attention to the movie. I thought it was coming out this weekend.
That's because the overseas
Oh yeah.
stuff is it gets early start overseas.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, it's out. I didn't even. That's how much I care about
Yeah,
that
it's
movie.
opening in Australia, Germany, Mexico, which means I can literally go into Tijuana probably this weekend and watch it. Yeah.
Don't make the trip.
Oh, I'll never go. Oh, I grew up down there as a kid. I'm the one guy in California who's like, no fucking way. It's I don't blend in. So I'm just saying, I can't, I love the food, man. I'm missing out on some of the best food I can get, but it's just too dangerous for me to go down there anymore. But they're saying they think it'll do in the 500 to 600 million range overall. I say it comes shy of 500 million.
I'll go with
Over.
450.
China's their big expected market because of the 3D.
Right.
But I say Amazing Spider-Man is no Captain America.
No, not even close.
Yeah, I say Amazing Spider-Man. Will it do better than X-Men? Let's make some predictions and write this stuff down, will you? Like, take some notes right now so we can come back on this.
Okay.
Okay. Will Amazing Spider-Man? Rob says week two gets 50% of initial gross, less than 50%. Let's see if I'm right.
Okay.
And Amazing Spider-Man 2 will make less than Captain America overall, is my prediction.
Okay.
Will it do better than X-Men overall? I say it'll do better than X-Men overall, though. For some reason, the X-Men movies haven't played well overseas. I don't know why. Not like as well as Spider-Man
Right.
overseas, which I don't know why because it's an ensemble. You'd think ensemble things do better,
I think X-Men don't do good overseas because they don't wear masks. I think a lot.
but the Expendables they don't wear masks.
Yeah, but things like Spider-Man with the phone cases, the iPhone cases, the backpacks, the video games.
I don't think the X-Men movies have been played as a team the way an Expendables movie has played as a team. as an ensemble overseas, or Fast and the Furious is played overseas as an ensemble. You catch my
Uh,
drift?
right.
Like even though it's X-Men, it's primarily one or two characters.
Right. Wolverine and whoever's Wolverine's sidekick in that movie.
Wolverine and Wolverine's psychic.
Yeah.
Oh, the what's her face? The you talking about the Asian chick in the
Oh,
last movie?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, or any X-Men movie, it's always, hey, let's fill some time, let's throw in some
Oh, I
mutants,
see,
and
like
then back to
Rogue
Wolverine.
or something like that. Yeah.
Just Wolverine movies.
Days of Future Past. What are the? I need to see the series as X-Men. So let me see what First Class and the Wolverine did overseas. According to Box Office Mojo, X-Men First Class did 207 million overseas and 146 here, so not a big jump. X-Men First Class did a total of 353 million. Wolverine Origins did 400 million. So more, 414, more, but roughly the same. You know what I mean? We're not talking a huge difference. You
Right.
know. So now, what did the Amazing Spider-Man do overseas? I can find that out in 2 seconds.
450 million.
You're looking that up now, or you're just saying that
No, I'm just throwing out random
out
numbers.
of random numbers? So let me go to series. Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man did 752 million worldwide and did 490 million overseas. So
That's
without a
close.
doubt, Spider-Man's going to break Wolverine X-Men numbers, right? I mean, that's got to
Right.
be a given.
Just because he's Spider-Man.
So they say it'll do between 500 and wait. If it did 752 million overseas, the first one, it's expected to do will wind up in the 5 to 600 million. So they're expecting it to do less. Wow. And they say it without saying it. That's amazing. No pun intended. But they are tracking it to do less, even with 3D, than the first film already. I don't know, man. You know, I think the movie's gonna. If this had a 6.0 on the IMDb, Spider-Man 2 will have a 5.2. So that's what I think. You know.
Right.
Hey, you have anything to add to this subject?
Nope.
Let's pick one more topic before we wrap this up. Make it good. No whammies. No whammies. No whammies.
All right. Jam Artsy asks,
Who?
Jam Artsy, a
Who's that?
fan. It's my wife.
Okay.
I didn't want to
Jam
use her. I
artsy.
didn't want to use her real name, so I used one of her, Twitter, Instagram.
Jam artsy. Okay, ask what?
Yeah, she does like crochet and stuff. Has Rob ever done free work for exposure, and is this a bad thing for artists to do?
Have I done free work for exposure and this is a bad thing to do? This depends on what you mean. So let's say I'm working with a company and they say, hey, dude, we have some pinups in the back of the book. We got some room for some art, but we're not
Hmm.
paying for it. If you want to do something, you got a slot, you can do it. Have I been asked to do that and have I done that? The answer is yes. Have Is it a bad thing to do that? No, there isn't always a budget, you know? It's left up to you to do that kind of thing.
Right.
I can tell you, it's never netted me in additional fans or money afterward.
Right. I mean,
Um,
because I know you've had people come up to you and wanted you to do a cover for their book, or some random thing, and I'm sure they've been like, oh, it'll be great exposure for you.
I thought I might make a network connection once. It was a book called, what was it called? It was written by Neil Druckerman, who was a writer of the Uncharted stuff, I
uh,
think, at Naughty Dog, right? Big writer at Naughty Dog. And he did a comic book, something about forgetting about Sarah, the time travel story, and Ape published it. And they said, "Hey, Neil Druckerman, creator, writer over at Naughty Dog, is gonna make his own comic, Rob, and we have some spots in the back. Would you like to do a pinup?" And I'm like, "Might be a good time to make friends, right?"
right.
So Neil hit me up. Oh, no, 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 no. They sent me a copy of the book. I did this pinup piece, sent it back to him. He's like, "Well, this is amazing. They did a great job." That's it. Went nowhere. I never saw the the thing actually printed, so hell I know. I imagine the pinup was printed. Um, Now, if it's draw me a whole book for free and you'll be exposed to an audience, I would stay the fuck away from that.
Right.
A pinup is not uncommon. Sometimes they do trade. I'm getting it now from some people. We'll give you a bunch of games. Or I got one now the other day. Was like, hey, would you be willing to do some character illustration art in exchange for ad spaces? Now, one, I'm trying to figure out ads for what?
Right.
The podcast, like, even if it were Game Cave, really, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna net me $500 or more in ad sales. You
Right.
really think, if even if I had an ad in Imagine Effects, do you think that's gonna net me? What was it gonna net me?
Nothing.
Maybe Facebook likes.
Right.
Like, so what? If I have 5,000, let me tell you the difference between 5,000 and 150,000 Facebook likes. Nothing. You catch my drift?
Right.
Guys, there's no difference between 5,000 and 150,000. I can prove it. I have 5,000. I have a friend who has 10. I have other friends who have 150,000, and I make more money than them based off my Facebook fans. You know what I mean? Per
Right.
fan, per like. So Facebook likes don't mean anything if they're just people clicking because you're going to be in your social circle, you know?
Right. And I think this is what I would my 2 cents is. I've done it before. I was stupid when I was younger. Someone's like, "Hey, do this T-shirt design for me, and it'll be big, and this will be blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, you have money, so sure." And I spent time. I think right about the time we started talking a lot, where I did that stuff for a clothing line in New York with a guy who was rich and he knew celebrities, and
Put it this way.
he
I don't want to cut you off because I'm going
go
to lose my train of thought, right? And you
go
can finish this up. let's say let's say your wife was offered to work on something, right?
okay,
There's no money for it. My response is not $20, not a fill up my Starbucks card.
right.
There isn't anything, you know? Because if there isn't anything at all, like, what can we
What's the
trade?
point?
You can't get anything out of this. Don't tell me exposure. I mean exposure, but it's just the act of good faith. That we're actually building a business relationship versus you taking advantage of talent. So my advice, if I could go back and shake Rob's head back in the day, would be like, look, I don't have a problem doing it, but like with Abe, they've always been great to me. I don't have anything bad to say to Abe. Abe would take me to lunch and pay for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I never had a problem drawing a cover for them for free or doing something. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
did the cover for their Cartoonapalooza for free, but they'll take me to lunch. Fucking dude just took me to lunch last month. You know what I mean? I haven't seen the guy in years.
Right.
So that's a sound thing. Get something. If they're unwilling to do something, and I've had that from people whom, if I called out right now, you would know,
Hmm.
nothing. And so at that point, I'm like, well, look, man, you can't even buy me a coffee, right? You can't order me a pizza. Here's the phone number to Domino's right down the street. Buy me a
Right.
pizza. You know what I mean? And I will do it. No problem. I'd like a free pizza tonight. See, as artists, we don't even think about that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you get a free pizza out of it, then you got more than what 90% of these other folks,
Right.
99%. So go ahead and talk about your story.
No, it kind of that's the same thing where it's what was I benefiting from it? I mean, yeah, I got a free trip to New York, but the time I spent there was busy making some stuff for him, taking pictures for his clothing line, which they didn't do their part. They didn't do their end of it, and it was just a total waste of time and effort and hours spent. And looking back now, it's with exposure, I see it as I tell my wife there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt. There's all the exposure you need right there for free. That's all free. If somebody wants to work with you, they're working with you, they're going to pay for it. Or like you said, a pizza, something that shows that, they appreciate what you're doing for them. Like them taking you to lunch with Abe. They don't have to, but they just call you up and say, hey, let's go to lunch. And they pay for it and they take you out because you've done work for them and they appreciate you. Where too many people now just see artists as a hobby. Oh, you draw? I could use that to make me money. So
Well,
I
we had a conversation about relevancy recently, right?
yeah,
And the subject was broached to me by a publisher that I should continue to work for publishers, even in a limited capacity, to maintain relevancy. And as if I'm not drawing the cover for Ghostbusters, twice a year, I'm irrelevant. And my rebuttal to that would be, but I'm not getting Rob Duanius. I'm not getting a big ad somewhere. I'm not getting flown in you. I'm not. No one cares. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
some people will see the cover and think it's cool and maybe buy it because it look cool, but I'm as relevant as the quality of my art. That's my standpoint. If my art, I don't care if I'm not appreciated in my own time. I can't control a lot of that. I've tried to. There are people. Now, let's be honest. Is the artwork in the original Ninja Turtle series better than what I can produce as an artist? No. You know what I mean? It's not great art. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Eastman and Laird, they're good artists. It's not the greatest art ever. It's indie art, I like it.
Right.
I think it's perfect for the material. I learned to draw from it, but I know I can out. If I had to sit down and draw the turtles and compared to that back in the day, I could outdraw them. But that doesn't mean that they're any less relevant than I am. You know what I mean? Like, they
Right.
didn't go off and draw a bunch of shit for fucking Marvel to maintain relevancy. What they did is they put their pencils down and continued to produce quality work. See what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So the quality of your work, in my opinion, is what demands relevancy. How this ties into what you've asked is, if the work you're doing for them, I get a pizza, I draw you a cover. If that work has quality to it, then you're relevant. Not because you did it for them and they went and published it somewhere. Given today, anybody and their freaking mother can publish anything they want.
Right.
And when everything's digital, how is Spider-Man as a digital comic any more or less relevant than the guy doing the Arachnid Hero? You know, like somewhere else. And when Order of the Stick, a stick figure comic, can make $1 million on Kickstarter, how is that any more or less relevant? Like,
Right.
you just need, it's the quality of the work and the fans you build. If you really want to work with somebody and they have no money, but they say they have a spot for you, just say, hey, you can ask for a free pizza. I'm willing to bet that if they're decent people, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna have any problems getting a free pizza out of the deal. But if they are insistent that they don't have money for a pizza, then you say, "Well, I don't have time to even do a sketch." You know.
Right.
So that would be my advice.
So to
But
answer that question, Rob likes pizza.
well, I don't have a better example. I wouldn't eat it now, given my diet. But I just feel that the idea to do work to maintain relevancy is irrelevant when you have quality work.
Right.
Does that make sense? Is that a formula? Like, work is good. Lack of publishing, doesn't equal relevancy. Lack of publishing might equal less exposure to a market that you want to get into, but if you have no intentions of drawing, I guess if I can look at it from my point of view, if you have no intentions of drawing comics, then it doesn't matter if I'm exposed to the comic book market.
Right.
Just catch my drift?
Hmm.
So it's 56 minutes in. Can we do any last thing?
You want to
Anything
talk
I can get
about
done?
Arrow?
Why don't we just wrap up the full season before we talk about that? You have one question here that says, if I could, if the thing about, could a woman hero movie such as Wonder Woman make the kind of money a male hero-driven movie has done, or end up like flops like Catwoman and Elektra? I can answer this pretty quickly.
Okay.
Um, Catwoman and Elektra failed because they were guys writing a female character. God, I hate saying that because Joss Whedon can write women. How do I say this? It was written for a male-oriented audience. The Hunger Games is a female-driven book written for a female teen audience.
Hmm.
That, you know what I mean? The book scene is, books are primarily read by girls right now. If you didn't know, go to any bookstore. Look at the
Right.
topics primarily written
My
by,
wife's read all the Hunger Games. She
right.
loves them.
So the movie, is an adaptation, that's going to appeal to girls because it was designed for it from the get, written by, I believe, a woman, right? I don't know. But it was designed for that crowd. If Wonder Woman is developed for the female crowd and it can speak to that, then I think it will be far more successful than them trying to write to a male crowd. I think guys will come in and be impressed by it and they'll capture a male audience. I'm not saying it won't.
Right.
Now, there's no way to say that without starting a shitstorm, which I'm gonna get, but it's kind of like a fact. Like, the question is, can a can a female superhero movie work? Absolutely. The fact that the Hunger Games worked so well is why Wonder Woman is in this movie, if you want to know.
Right.
So remember, that was never part of the plan. That was added after the fact. The Hunger Games has changed everything. Uh, Catwoman and Elektra were just written for a completely different audience, you know? So
Right.
I think given that frame that they'll look at that, I have a belief that we'll see the Black Widow movie first though, given how slow Warner Brothers is to getting shit done, you know?
Right.
And if they make a Black Widow movie, I can assure you Joss Whedon will have a hand in it somewhere. So, because you could see how she's changed since he jumped on board, right? But
Right.
look at Iron Man 2 compared to Captain America 2, and those aren't the same character, you know, on
Yeah.
any level, you know. So, but yeah, I think it'll do well. I mean, I thought she was awesome in Captain America, and I could stand to watch more of that. If this Gal Gadot chick plays it well, then she's likable. Can they get someone to write something? Yeah, it can't turn into fucking chick by day, secretary, superhero by night. You know,
Right.
I'm curious about the universe she exists in because the Hunger Games is a universe, you know, that has a strong female protagonist. It's a universe in which a strong female protagonist exists. What's the universe like for Wonder? We don't know, man. You know,
Right.
until this next movie comes out, and you can't even base on the Dark Knight Returns being that Wonder Woman was an old ass woman, you know, in that universe, and that's clearly not the situation here. So
I'd like to see her like on the Amazon island and the training and have a gladiator feel to it. I mean,
I'm
that'd be,
glad Zack Snyder's in charge of it though, because you know he could film a woman kicking ass.
oh yeah, sucker punch.
Dude, I'd say look at that prison breakout scene in Watchmen. You know,
Right.
like that chick's whooping all sorts of fucking ass, and it's the actual actors. You know, like if he can make her kick ass, then anyone can. You know, like Zack Snyder will film the shit out of Wonder Woman stomping, you know, faces
Dude, dude just whooping dude's ass.
into the ground, you know, through buildings and shit. So I'm down for it. I mean, I'll go see it, you know. But if it was anything that looked like that, hey, dude, that TV show that got canceled, the pilot,
Oh Jesus.
people don't know they made a Wonder Woman pilot that was being produced by David Kelly, right? The TV writer, David Kelly, and that went nowhere. But you can see the footage or pictures of what that looked like. And that was pretty freaking horrible, right?
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I'm just ashamed. It's a shame to me that Warner Brothers is basically settling on making one movie at a time. So the question is how old will this chick be by the time they get around to making a Wonder Woman movie? You know, is that
Right.
5, 6 years from now? Because that's what it's looking like, Brandon. You
Yeah,
know,
they're not in a rush. They,
sad to say.
they say they're not competing because they can't. They can't. Marvel's just a machine. They have it planned, set up. They don't stop.
Yeah, I may not like the books, but I do enjoy this movie universe a great deal. So, with that being said, watch the chicks in Guardians of the Galaxy kick more ass than right. They got Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan. Look like they're gonna
I
square
love
off.
Zeldana.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I liked her in Columbiana. Was that what it was?
Yeah, I didn't
Columbiana.
see that, but
Yeah.
I mean, I liked her in Avatar. I mean, she's gonna play a blue woman and a green woman now. It's amazing. I mean, that's pretty. Huh? What? Hey, maybe she'll play the Red Hulk chick too. Like that would be kind of cool. But no, she's a fantastic actress, and like I said, she made Avatar. If Avatar failed for a lot of people, it worked with her. I don't know how you could say she
Right.
didn't, give her all. And I loved her in Star Trek. So, you know, who'da thought? All right, you have anything else to add, Brandon?
Nope.
All right, so where can we find you on the internet?
Twitter at Lead Heavy, Instagram at Lead Heavy, Facebook at Brandon James Art.
But not lead heavy on DeviantArt.
But not Lead Heavy on DeviantArt. I am Lead Heavy Art because I'm a name thief. So
That's awesome. As always, folks, you can find me at the Facebook Skechcraft, Sketch Craft, Skechcraft, the name of the podcast.com, iTunes. Would love a review, folks. We're going on 4 years now. 4 years of Sketchcraft. I think it was originally Coffee Con Carnage for a few episodes, but Sketchcraft for 4 years, and I got 19 ratings on iTunes. That's fucked up. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to do something about that. I do have a Kickstarter coming up where I'm gonna basically have a digital only thing where the podcast will be bundled in, as a bonus. So, because I just know it's going to get torrented. So I just would love people to torrent the fucking podcast and at least get it out there, you know? So if you, 3 years from now, if you come across this exact same episode and want to know how it ended up on a torrent, it's because I knew it would. And I planned it that way. Podcast is forever. As always, you can find me at Skechcraft on iTunes, Facebook, Instagram, yada, yada, yada. See y'all in 2 weeks. Bye. Skechcraft is recorded in front of a live internet audience and supported by listeners like you. Please be sure to leave a review on iTunes, like and share our Facebook page, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All links can be found at sketchcraft.com. That's Skechcraft, C-R-A-F-T, the name of the podcast, .com. Remember, every little bit counts and it all helps to grow the show. Thanks.